had not one, but two 5-1 manifestors in human design tell me that I needed to make this video. And when a manifestor initiates an idea that aligns with your soul purpose, you go ahead and do it. And if it basically feels like I just spoke a bunch of gibberish to you, don't worry, it will make a lot more sense by the end of this video, because I'm going to be sharing one of the topics that is nearest and dearest to my heart, which is human design, something I stumbled upon back in 2017 and completely changed my life. If you guys are new here, my name is Rachel from The Confused Mom. Welcome to my channel. I share all things. I don't really know what I share anymore. I recently just announced a channel update video I will leave here that kind of talks about bridging the gap from my old type of content to my new type of content, and this was kind of an in-between topic that serves as a good bridge because I started sharing about this in my Montessori versus Waldorf series, and so I'm going to share a little bit more about it and how to use human design not only for your own life and personal growth, but also for parenting your kids. So what is human design? It's basically a roadmap for how to work with your energy for the greatest ease and alignment in life. It was founded by Ra Uru, who was a physicist and a teacher, and based the system on the I Ching, astrology, Kabbalah, and quantum physics. So it's got science in there, it's got the esoteric in there. It's a really cool melting pot of a lot of different systems. It's led to things like gene keys, which you may have heard of, which is basically a deeper dive of the gates on your human design chart, which we won't be getting into today because your human design chart provides so much information. It's honestly insane, down to the way to eat, exercise, live, initiate like projects in your life, protect your energy. Like there's so many different things that you can find in a human design chart. It's bananas. So if you want to book a reading with me to go a little bit deeper, I will leave a link in the description box below to do that. But in this video, we'll go through some of the high level basics to get you started. To pull your chart, I like to go to myhumandesign.com. The founder of it is Jenna Zoe. She is the person that did my reading back in like 2018. She was a guest on my old podcast. I will leave a link to that episode below, where it completely changed my life and really allowed me to decondition, which is a good example of why I get so excited about this. A lot of the negatives I had internalized as a kid. For instance, I was always kind of negged on for being such a flake. Well, then I found my human design chart where I'm a manifesting generator, where we're supposed to be really quick moving and tasting all the different things. Can combine that with my profile in human design, which is a 3-5, which Jenna Zoe coined as the great life experimenter. It makes sense why I move from topic to topic and thing to thing so quick. My mom used to tell me I would give her whiplash with how often I would change. My friends used to joke that I change who I am more often than they change their underwear. So it was this breath of finally being seen for such an extremist that I am, which is also part of my human design chart. It can provide those like aha moments for these messages we got about ourselves as kids as negative, which was honestly like one of the coolest breaths of fresh air for me. Once you pull up your chart on myhumandesign.com, I just like Jenna Zoe because the languages she interpreted Ra Uruhu's language into, it's just a lot warmer, it's more positive. It's different though than what other human design readers might call certain things, just kind of giving you a warning there. For instance, where I said 3-5s are the great life experimenters, in other charts it's called the martyr heretic, but I digress. So you'll enter your birth information. You do need your birth date, time, and location for this to be accurate. You cannot just skip the birth time, unfortunately, because things can literally change minute to minute in a human design chart. I'm going to break down some of the key aspects of this, starting with the energy types, which I'm not going to spend a ton of time on because I'll explain them as I go through some of these other things. But there are 5 different energy types: manifesting generators, MGs as I like to call them, or man-gens some people call them. There's also generators, projectors, manifestors, just plain manifestors, and reflectors. I do want to note one thing on manifestors. When we think manifestors, a lot of people get caught up with sitting down and writing out a list of your dream house, and I'm not that type of person. Manifestors in human design are not those types, but there is an aspect in your chart that can tell you how you do manifest, whether it's like specific lists or more general. Again, it tells you everything. Basically, these 5 energy types tell you how you are meant to bring energy to the world and how you are meant to interact with energy for the greatest impact. I'm not going to go into any more detail about those 5 for the sake of time. Instead, I'm going to give you the supporting facts that really add flavor to those energy types, and I find move the needle a lot quicker towards getting into alignment and moving through life with more ease than knowing your energy type. Your energy type is also paired with your authority, which is how you are meant to make decisions. Historically, a lot of us have been encouraged to make decisions with our minds, like gather all the facts, make a pro-con list, and really think about it, and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, we're actually supposed to make decisions in a unique way designed for us based off of aspects of our body. This idea of making decisions from our mind is actually pretty tricky because in human design, you can have an open head, which means that it's white and not colored in when you look at that chart. And what that basically means is you're taking in all these different thoughts and ideas from everybody around around you. So if you're talking to somebody that's really excited about starting a podcast, you might find that you get swept up into the idea of wanting to start a podcast too, if you have this open head, or the idea that a certain food is really good for you and they're talking about how great it is and they're all excited, and all of a sudden you think it's really good for you. And so when you have this open head, you have to be really aware of other aspects of your chart to empty all of that out, because if you make a decision when your head is filled with everybody else's stuff, it can lead you down the wrong path. And knowing your authority can help you with that decision-making process. So the first type of authority we have is the sacral authority. This is your gut. Only MGs and generators have this, and these people really thrive on quick yes/no questions. It's that gut reaction where we get that phrase from that really applies. The next type of authority is emotional. This type of decision takes more time than a sacral decision maker would, because we have to feel the high and the low of our emotions when sitting with a choice, and then make the choice from a place of neutrality before moving forward. This is what I am. It can take minutes, it can take days, it can take weeks, but the key really here is when you have an emotional, to not make the decision when you're on the high. So if you have a child with an emotional authority, if they're so excited about signing up for a certain sport, wait until they're calm before you check back in with them to see if it still is what they want to do. Because if they have an open set and they're emotional, they can get swept up in their friend's excitement and think it's what they want in that moment. But once they empty out and their emotions kind of play the high and low of what that could be like, their choice may change. The next authority is splenic. Only projectors and manifestors have this, and these people are able to make a really quick, intuitive decision. Think of like the spleen. It's just like, next are ego manifested authorities, which only applies to manifestors. And these people, whatever they're saying is their decision, is what they're meaning. And it's really important for them to be surrounded by people that won't interrupt that flow of just getting out and speaking from their throat center, basically. Next are ego projected authorities, and only projectors have this. And these are basically people that need to make decisions from the heart, where that phrase like follow your heart comes from. They follow their heart, they should have enough energy to do it. But if they're not following their heart, they probably won't have enough energy to do it. Next are self-projected authorities. And again, only projectors can have this. It's like a hybrid of the last two. And this is sort of a twist off of that ego manifested manifestor authority that I mentioned, where they too need to speak their decision process out. However, as they're talking is when they will get the clarity about their truth. So whereas ego manifested, just what they're saying is already the truth, ego projected is going to be a little bit more of like bouncing ideas off of other people, and then combining that with the previous one, the ego projected, to see where their heart is pulling them towards. They'll only find that heart pull while they're bouncing their ideas off of people, but it's good for them to have a small grouping of people that will, again, like the ego manifested, let them finish, won't redirect them, and will be able to hold space for them as they self-audit. Next are projectors that have no inner authority. They need time to make decisions. They need a lot of people to bounce a lot of ideas off of that they can use as sounding boards and not counselors. And it's only through that process of like repeatedly going through it that they'll find their truth. And then last, which are the reflectors, who also have no inner authority, but they actually have an outer authority, which is the lunar cycle. So essentially sitting on a big decision and waiting an entire lunar cycle will provide them with the clarity they need to move forward and execute, which is obviously kind of hard to do in the world that we live in, which is very fast paced, which is where your strategy that we're going to talk about next comes in. There are 4 strategies, and these tie directly into your authority and your energy type. For generators and manifesting generators, the strategy is to respond. So if you are this type of person, or your child is this type of person, you're going to want to stick to yes/no questions. Abstract, like, what do you want for dinner? Your kid's not going to be able to answer that. You're going to have to run through the list. Okay, do you want peanut butter and jelly? Do you want soup, chicken? You're going to have to go through the yes/nos, and then that person will then rely on that authority we just talked about to make that decision moving forward. My daughter, as a sacral, she's pretty quick. Yes, no, yes, no. Me, my husband, and my son, we're emotional. So we're like, keep going down the list. Keep going down the list. Keep going down the list. Sometimes it's a quick yes, no, but sometimes I have to feel the feeling of each food choice before I'm like, yes, that's the one. Yes, no questions, a really simple way to work with MGs and generators. For manifestors, the strategy is to inform. Manifestors have this defined throat, which means that they really can speak and initiate things. So the way they're meant to use their energy is to just tell people, I'm gonna go do that. And those people will either like come with them, or they're like, no, I'm not interested in that. And if manifestors can have other people come in to finish. That's usually also a really good thing because manifestors are initiators. And that's going to be the most efficient use of their energy. For projectors, the strategy is to wait for an invitation, which is probably one of the more confusing and most like debated things in the human design world. Basically what this means is, like manifestors, they're supposed to just do the thing, put up their billboard, I'm doing this, but the people who receive it are the ones who invited them to share it. Projectors really need to focus on building their zone of genius and knowing that in building their zone of genius, the right people will invite them into their space as it is. So some of the most successful podcasters are actually projectors because they're just building their zone of genius. They have their billboard up, I'm doing this, and whoever is choosing to subscribe or listen is inviting them into their space. A lot of people in my life are projectors around me. One of the hardest things I've seen for them, they are really intuitive, insightful, and they have great advice a lot of the time. But if they share that advice in a conversation without somebody asking for that advice, it's going to fall on deaf ears and lead to their not self theme. If you are a projector or your child is a projector, just be really aware of the not self theme and making sure that you are either waiting to be invited yourself or giving your child invitations to share with you as often as possible. And for reflectors, their authority and their strategy are to wait a lunar cycle. They need that time because they have so many open centers to filter all of this energy in and out, which will make a lot more sense when we get to the not self theme and your signs you're on the right track, which we're going to talk about right now. I always suggest when first starting out and learning human design and playing with your energies to focus in on your not self theme and your sign. And essentially what the not self theme tells you is when it is your unique time to put something down and step away from it. When you know your sign, which is the opposite of the not self theme, that's when you are supposed to keep moving forward. For generators and MGs, the not self theme is frustration. If you are just getting frustrated, feeling like you are pushing a boulder up a hill, that means put it down. Your energy is being wasted right now. Instead, you want to focus on the things that are bringing you satisfaction. And when I say you put something down, it doesn't necessarily mean forever. It could be for an hour. It could be for forever. It's just one of those things where you're not in the most productive phase of your energy. And if you keep trying to push into that frustration and push through that frustration is when we can pick up like negative perceptions about ourselves or the world. And so you're better off just sticking to that satisfaction. For manifestors, it's anger. This crops up for manifestors when they haven't been informing. They've kind of just been trying to go with the flow, or they've become too controlling of others. Manifestors are supposed to initiate, and then like the aftermath is for everyone else to deal with. Manifestors are on the right path when feeling peace or harmony. For projectors, the not self theme is bitterness, and this tends to really crop up when they have not been waiting for the invitation, but instead have been trying to initiate. The thing with projectors is they are supposed to just be sharing their gifts and doing their thing, but they are not supposed to be trying to bulldoze their thing down other people's throats. They wanted to write a book and they were to send out 100 pitches to book editors, it wouldn't be uncommon for them to get no's. But if they were to just start writing a blog, it would be very likely that a publisher would reach out to them and offer them a book. It's kind of that trusting in the universe and just making sure you're putting your energy where it belongs most effectively. So yes, you can use all that energy to send out all those pitches, or you can use that energy to just share what you want to share, and you'll see how it flows in differently. Their sign that they're on the right path is actually success. And then for reflectors, the not self theme is disappointment. They really need to be waiting a few weeks, practicing discernment, allowing everything to kind of flow through them during that lunar cycle, and allowing their signature to come through, which is surprise of where that lunar cycle takes them. I would say like curiosity is one of the greatest skills for reflectors, because if they get fixed in the middle of a lunar cycle onto like a specific way that things should go based off of what they're tapping into from one of the other energy types that's in their life, they're more likely to have disappointment instead of just being like, I don't know, we're gonna see where this goes. I don't know, I'm gonna see where this goes. Anyway, there's still so much to get into on human design, from digestion, your environment, incarnation crosses, which is like one of my favorite areas of this, working out. But this is like the high level starter area and teaching you how to realign your decision-making process, less in the mind, more about your authority, paying more attention to those not self themes when you're taking steps off path path, paying attention to your signs, your signature, when you are moving with your energy correctly. Because, you know, as an MG, I can feel anger, but that doesn't necessarily for me mean I'm off path. When I feel that frustration, it means to save my energy for another time. And you'll find greater flow and ease in your life when you're following these things. I often get asked, like, how do you get so much done? How are you able to like do all these different things? Because I'm very, very cognizant of when I'm feeling frustrated and putting something down and moving to something like what would feel satisfying for me right now. Does this feel satisfying? Yes, no. Does this feel satisfying? Yes, no. And that sort of process for myself, it allows me to go ahead and make next steps quickly in my day and in my week and in my life and in my planning. I hope you see kind of like the practicality of all of this. If you do want a reading, again, I have those linked in the description box below. Be sure to tune into the Mystical Human podcast where we talk a lot more about this type of content, and hit that subscribe and notification bell for future videos.